The year 2010 is the 10th year. Thank you. Okay. The year 2010 is the 10th year since the beginning of the Second Intifada, known as Al-Aqsa Intifada or Uprising, which marked a juncture in the life of each Palestinian that darkened our days, hardened our suffering, and the story of freedom and liberty turned out to be alive for most of the kids, youth, and young adults around the world, in Palestine. As a young Palestinian female who was born in a conflicting area, or what I call war zone, this had affected my life on all levels, even my ideas, my perspectives, and my life itself, which made it so different from your kids and almost everyone around the world, except my Palestinian people, my age maybe. I was born during the first Intifada, the year 1987. Then I was a little child, not mature enough to understand what was happening. Now I am old enough to figure out what was going on and what had happened a few years ago, and how a traumatized generation was brought up having shattered dreams among this madness. We were raised in the most difficult of situations, where things changed thoroughly. Now we are old enough to understand that we lived a war that wasn't ours. We struggled in sorrow and paid a heavy and disproportionate price, as this conflict had direct and indirect impacts on our childhood years. I believe that it was unfair and not right that we should suffer the continual erosion of our childhood and adolescence. After the fake glimmer my city Bethlehem had in the Millennium festivities, which didn't last for a year, a new reality was revealed after the beginning of the Second Intifada in the year 2000. All the precious moments of happiness taken for granted in other countries were crushed by the violations perpetrated by the Israeli soldiers and occupation. I can remember what happened during the first years of the Intifada as if it just happened. Let's go through some facts and impacts of what took place during the years of the Intifada. Some of the impacts will unfortunately accompany these young adults forever and mark them for a lifetime and turn rosy days into very gloomy ones instead. What is it like to be a young person living in Palestine under the occupation and the continuous injustices created by the Israeli soldiers? And what kind of an impact will it leave on our lives? I am now an unemployed graduate of Bethlehem University, but I am not the only. 70% of the Palestinian university graduates have no jobs. But why does this happen? I clearly know that due to the financial crisis around the world, many people are unemployed. But that's not the only factor that plays a role in unemployment in Palestine. We are living in an open-air prison. Youth can't move to other cities easily, and at times we're not allowed to do so at all. We need to have certain papers or permits to cross the checkpoints and go through metal detectors and physical checking, which wastes hours of our time. It might take 3 hours to reach our working places. That directly and indirectly makes young people think of immigration to other countries, like the United States or one of the European countries, looking for jobs or higher education. In my case, I went to look for graduate school education because I can't find any master's programs in clinical psychology at home. Because I am unemployed, I can't support myself or get a loan to travel abroad to reach my dreams. There is a lack of clinical psychologists, and this field is greatly needed in my country, especially lately. Also, it's not only about higher education. The occupation has tried many times to hold any educational system in Palestine. For example, my university was completely closed for 3 years under the orders of the Israeli occupation. When closures were imposed, children and youth couldn't get to schools. We were imprisoned in homes for days and weeks. Also, if their parents were not employed, who is going to pay for their education? That forces children to leave school and become involved in children labor to support their families, particularly if the parents are not working or if they are imprisoned or have been murdered. That is an indirect impact of the Israeli occupation, which aims to create an illiterate new generation who will never be able to defend their rights. So halting the educational system and unemployment do not only affect the economic situation, but all aspects of life. We can only be economically independent when we have a strong educational system and personal freedom. When we look at the psychological, emotional, and physical impacts of the occupation of the late Intifada, we can clearly observe that a new traumatized generation dependent on others and physically handicapped leads to psychosocial problems that affect the mental and physical health overall. So continuous violence is creating continual mental disorders. Also, if we look at the physical impact of the illegal attacks which created a young handicapped population, many young people are not able to even walk, move, or support their own needs. This created a dependent young generation who can't even take care of themselves, and their future is not clear, because they may never be able to find a job or provide for their own well-being. As a matter of fact, the massive use of illegal weapons in the most recent Gaza war, such as the phosphorus missiles, created a new young generation who have many impairments and are physically or mentally handicapped. That eliminates our chances to have a new, healthy generation who can lead us into a brighter future. That's scary, isn't it? Because I wonder if this never stops, where will it lead us? And will we ever be able to overcome these physical and emotional scars, injuries, and handicaps? Also, if we wanted to create a good daily life, we can't, because we are afraid that we might be attacked at any time by any means of harassments. Israelis claim that they built the wall to protect themselves. On the contrary, they can come into our cities anytime and cause us any harm, which is unequal and unfair, as the wall does nothing to protect us from them. We can't access good libraries, cinemas, or even beaches. Beaches may only be an hour away from us, or from my home. But we need permits to go there, and they'll never be offering it to us, unless perhaps on a religious holiday. This desperately makes us feel depressed, frustrated, angry, and anxious about our future. And we lose our hopes and dreams because of these injustices, the suppression, and the violations. That's why young people might negatively describe life in Palestine. We are becoming dead souls and living bodies. So how many of us will have the pain of losing their beloved ones, losing their dreams and hopes for the future? How many of us will see their lives, their homes disappearing from one moment to another? We might survive few days, few months, or few years, but one day we may lose the battle. If the situation remains the same, at such moments, there's no point in pretending that nothing has happened. Those years were enough, and we, the new generation, should work for new ways in which we can create a better life. But without the help of the world, the elders, and the leaders, we will remain in this situation for years to come. And what scares me the most is one day I am going to die, probably all of us. Yeah, that's the fact. And when I look back over my life, I will say, why didn't we stand up, say no, and demand our legitimate human rights, justice, equity, equality, and peace, since this is the only way we can be satisfied? So speaking for the youth of my country, I send a plea for help, for your support in understanding our great need for justice, equality, and peaceful living in my beautiful country that I love and is my home. Let your humanity decide.